Yes, hello, and welcome to the Big Reef Podcast. It's your boy Hayden here again with a little intro. It's back to the old school today. Both Morgan and I sat down last night and we chatted for about an hour and a half. Just really got some stuff off our chest, or collective chests, individually and collective. And we also talked at length about Morgan's grossly underrated podcast series or radio play series called Snail Yeah. We've been hyping this up for a while, but we're going to re-release this hilarious radio show / podcast series of his, once again called Snail Yeah. We're going to re-release it on the Patreon for all of you to listen to. If you're a member, you'll get to hear the full episodes. There are about 5 of them. If you're not a paid member, then we'll release it on the free feed. You'll get to hear maybe half of these episodes. But this episode right here, you're gonna hear a lot about the process and what went into making this hilarious podcast series. Morgan and I talk about our favourite parts from some of our favourite sketches from the series. We even play a couple of those sketches, so tune in and enjoy that. Once again, as usual, we're only giving you half of this episode or half an hour of this episode. If you're not a paid Patreon subscriber, so please make your way over to patreon.com/Big Reef and subscribe. Pay us $8.50 per month to get access to all of the other podcasts, all the full episodes, free entry to some of our shows. In fact, we need a plug. We have a gig in Canberra this weekend on Saturday, the 3rd of August, at Resent Fest at the Polo. There's a $10 discount code on our Patreon. If you're a member, you can get access to that and you can get cheaper tickets. It's going to be a great show. Look, I don't need to tell you the value proposition on this one. Not to mention the sentimental value is through the roof. So sign up to our Patreon. And without further ado, listen to this fantastic conversation Morgan and I had about his podcast and get fucking psyched for Snail Yeah, which is coming to you soon. And we even talk, perhaps, about Morgan picking up the microphone, dusting it off, and recording a second season of Snail Yeah. Anyway, goodbye. Thank you. Welcome to the Big Reef Podcast. We're back.
It's so good to be back with my brother, my big baby brother Hayden.
It's me, the big baby brother Hayden. A classic El Clasico episode of the podcast tonight, just right. Morgan, it's been a minute, but it's really nice to sit down and just chill, you know? No expectations, no one to interview, no one to think about.
You've got the notepad out.
I have got the notepad,
pencil.
Though. I found that using the notepad during these interviews I've been doing has been helpful, and it's sort of even something to glance at when I'm feeling like...
But what if I was to ask you this? How's your weekend been? You got that on your notepad, smart guy?
No. But the idea is that, like, if I don't feel like making eye contact with someone, I can scribble on the notepad and sort of like pretend I'm thinking about the next question as I'm doing now.
That's why I carry a Digimon around with me.
I'm drawing a swastika. And then I'm putting a big cross through it.
Yeah.
Because no, swastika.
Yeah, my swastika just evolved into a crucifix on my Digimon, so I get to look at that all the time.
I don't know where you got that Digimon from. That's weird.
I've been buying them all year.
No. It's called a Digimon No swastika. How's my weekend been? It's been okay. Spent most of today cleaning out our garage, which is a job that's been sitting... Lo and behold.
So far away from you, I hate being over here.
Come closer. It's been sitting on the list of things that I needed to do around this house for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
And I've just been, there's shit in the house that, you open up a cupboard and you're like, half of this shit needs to go.
Yeah.
And so I take, every second weekend I'd take 3 hours, pull everything out of the cupboard, decide on the shit that needs to go, and then just kind of like throw it in the garage. And then put all the stuff that's meant to stay back in a very beautiful, organized.
Yeah.
And then I do that room by room and cupboard by cupboard. And now the garage is unusable. And today I went in there and I fucking pulled all the shit out of the garage.
And you put it back in the rooms.
I put I put half of the stuff back in the garage, which we needed to keep, and put it away in an organised fashion.
I'm
the rest of it,
fishing rods. I'm thinking surfboards.
It's giving surfboards.
It's giving surfboards.
It's giving surfboards.
Yes.
It's giving.
This garage is really giving surfboards.
Really, this garage is giving me a pain in the ass, Morgan.
I'll bet. I've had a real mild tickle in my throat. It's been annoying because I like to commit to being sick.
Yeah.
When I'm sick, I like to really be like, oh no, I'm sick. I can't do anything. But this is like just annoying enough that it might explain I've been sleeping a lot as well. But I don't know. I haven't had like any phlegm or anything.
Hang on, sorry.
I haven't had any of the cool effects.
You've been sleeping a lot in the sense that like you've been feeling like you should go to bed earlier because you're tired, or you've just been like making a concerted effort like I should get some more sleep.
No, I've just been getting tired and then sleeping.
Yeah,
so
okay.
it might be a viral thing, but I don't get any of the cool effects like having a deep voice.
No, that's cool.
Or having a deep voice or anything like that.
Snot everywhere and having to blow your nose all the time.
Not getting to do that. Not getting to feel like I'm clearing anything out.
How's your energy? Like you sort of walk, like half a kilometer, and by the end you're like, oh fuck, I feel like shit now.
I walked from like Kingston to Dixon today.
That's a long walk.
That's a fair walk.
5 kilometers?
Yeah, it was about $5.
How long did it take you?
I left my phone at home, so I didn't have a
I've done
clock.
it faster.
So I got back to my phone and saw that the clock was still working. So it must have been 2 hours.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That's how I do it.
Why'd you have to walk that far?
Oh, because we were going to a cafe and there's like a chain of these cafes all around town.
Oh no, you went
and
to
I
the
thought
one
that
in Kingston.
I thought that the chain was in Braddon, and then as we were going down there, I was like, oh, look, I'll just walk. I'll catch the tram home. And then it turned out we were going somewhere else, and I wasn't clear on that. And we went down there. And then, there were lifts offered to me from different parts of people who were there. But I was
too proud.
Partly too proud, and partly just like, I kind of want to walk. And I've met my limit for socialization. And if I have to sit in a car with one person and feign interest in conversation with them as well, that's just going to be a wheel too far for me today.
A nice long walk can give you the space you need to just be in your own head.
Yeah.
It's a bit slow though. It's a long slow. 2 hours of walking. I don't know.
It was a long walk, but it was worth the gamble. And then I got home and ate 2 packets of mee goreng satay flavored.
Yes, I don't know.
Pretty good.
Oh, really? You like the satay?
Pretty
ones?
good deal. Yeah.
I've only ever eaten the satay mee goreng because I bought them accidentally. Didn't realize that they weren't just like standard mee goreng.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the one I go for mainly.
Really?
I can't remember what the normal one tastes like. In differential to that one. Yeah.
I don't like anything. I don't think I like satay
I don't
ever.
like anything. Yeah, no, I love satay.
Really?
Satay's my... it's probably my favorite thing.
Weird.
It's probably one of my favorite things to taste.
Peanut butter on...
Love peanut butter.
Chicken.
Love peanut butter. When I was in primary school, I used to like to have a peanut butter sandwich with banana and honey and
that sounds good.
lettuce and
But like when you're heating the peanut butter up, no thanks.
Oh yeah. Toast it with cheese.
Okay, all right. I changed my mind.
Tuna. Cheese.
No, that's
cheese,
bad.
tuna,
Cheese and
banana, honey, peanut butter, and crispy lettuce.
Banana, honey, peanut butter. You got me.
Of course.
Warm it up, toast, melt that shit.
Of course.
100%.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't like satay. I think if I'm going to eat meat, I want to fucking taste the meat, and that satay gets in the way.
Well, it's just like Jason, as they say. In these instances, it's just like Jason.
It truly is.
It's a little bit like Jason. And then I attempted to record or edit a sketch for my infamous podcast, Snail Yeah.
Now, I'm glad we got onto this because it is a big topic of discussion for tonight.
It's getting bigger.
It's getting taller. It's getting bigger. Morgan, when you were nigh on 5 years younger than you are now, 2019.
Yes,
you recorded. Let's take it back. 2019. The world didn't know what the word pandemic meant.
No.
The world was like pandemic.
No.
Hardly newer. I think that's how it goes. Pandemic, hardly memic. I'm not anemic. And you snuggled up inside your beautiful flat there in the north of the south of Canberra. So, Phillip, is that the north of the south?
Thank you. Yes, it's south of
nestled
Central.
Away beautifully.
Well, yes, it's nestled away.
In the north of south.
I was close to a hospital, so if anything went wrong, I was always, let's just say, close to comfort.
Operating safely, close to comfort. Morgan recorded a 5+1 exclusive.
Thank you.
Comedic, dramatic, scripted, somewhat off the cuff, somewhat scripted, comedic, dramatic.
Yes.
Podcast.
Radio play.
A radio, yeah, that's a better word for it. A radio play, a sort of. Excuse me. Following in the footsteps of behemoths such as the Mitchell and Webb, Webb sound, a radio play, sketches, essentially like comedy sketches.
Little sketches.
But imagine this: you're watching your favorite sketch comedy show. I don't know, The Wedge, The Big Bite.
I'm listening.
Comedy Inc. Perhaps. What else we got?
Sketch show, Big Bite.
The sketch show, The Big Bite.
Comedy Inc. Full Frontal. The McAuliffe program.
Fast Forward.
What else we got? The Late Show.
There was another one, Comedy Inc.
Yeah, there was. The Big Bite, Comedy Inc.
There was one on Channel 9.
Skid House.
So Skid House was the better one.
Skid House.
Comedy Inc. was the bad one.
Yeah.
I mean, they were both bad.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Whichever one had the Australian fast bowler, that used to crack me up.
It cracked me down.
To let me think about it used to crack me up.
To let me think about it. Snail Yeah is the name of your podcast. Nigh on 5 years ago, you recorded a 5-parter plus one podcast called Snail Yeah.
Please.
And I remember when you sent it to me, I thought, this guy is whack. That's what we used to say back in the day.
Whack means shit.
Not where I come from. Morgan.
Okay. Actually, I might do something with that in the new season of Snail Yeah.
No, please don't.
I'm going to write that down.
I've been watching that clip a lot lately. Just a little sidebar.
Everybody go look up Andrew O'Keefe. I guess whack.
Yeah,
Andrew O'Keefe whack.
A friend of mine was looking up some Andrew O'Keefe clips, and our good friend Declan's YouTube video came up as the first result.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is just like a supercut of. It has like thousands upon thousands of views, which is why it was number one.
Does it really?
Yeah, it has heaps of views. It's just like a supercut of like Andrew O'Keefe from Some Benefit talking about how men need to do better and you know, like how he'd love to play a part in like helping the plight of women who are assaulted by men. Interspliced with like footage of him like screaming through the back of a paddy wagon as he's like picked up for
domestic abuse,
and then also like that clip of him with Dylan from Recovery. Saying the N-word. Great stuff. Some of my favorite television on YouTube. Anyway, what are we talking about? You recorded this great podcast. It was so funny. I remember listening to it.
Oh, thank you.
And thinking it was hilarious at the time. Yes. And then I never listened to it again. And we talked when we started this podcast and this Patreon. We said, we gotta re-release this thing.
Yeah.
And get it to an audience.
Yeah.
So some might say strategically on our 5-year plan with lots of graphs and Gantt charts and sort of watching the listenership grow.
Don't mind a Gantt chart.
We'll get to the point where the listenership is ripe for the priming and prime for the juicing.
And then then we hit them.
That's when we hit them with the Snail Yeah. And I'm really excited to say we're gonna hit them with the Snail Yeah.
This is when we stop making music and we stop performing and we stop doing anything other than just releasing the same 5 episodes of Snail Yeah every week. Guess what? They're coming out again.
This was available, but I believe it's impossible to find online now.
Yeah, no,
somewhat of a rare gem.
So I created a Podbean account about 5 years ago, and the limit is 25 minutes, or must be more than that, maybe like an hour. Yeah. And then after that, you have to start paying for it. Right. So that's part of the reason why I limited it to 5 episodes, was I didn't want to pay for any more. But I learned about how you distribute a podcast and put it on Spotify and iTunes and all that sort of stuff. But then when we had this plan to re-release it, had forgotten what my login was and how exactly I'd uploaded it. So it took a bit of work to contact Spotify and Podbean to get it removed, but it has been successfully removed. So now it exists solely on the Big Reef Google Drive, and we will upload it 1 episode at a time. And thank you for saying that it's funny.
It's so funny. It's a very, very funny thing. And I think like I use the word nepotism sometimes to refer to things that you've done or that other family members have done that I like, that strike me in a very, very strong way. And I think that it's like, it's how I've always understood the word nepotism to be meant. Like it's like this innate thing of like, I have a very hard time sometimes discerning whether the thing that you did is fucking hilarious objectively, or it's just like, it like strikes a chord with me because we've got such similar reference points. We've been through so many things. We've been through very similar lives in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to be objective, but I think it's so funny, and it really, like, some of the funnier parts in there really strike me, not just in my funny bone, but in my sincere bone.
In the sincere bone as well. Yeah. No, thank you. And I struggle with the same thing, but I guess the thing that I was aware of when making this, my life and my work allowed me to have a lot of spare time, or in fact put me in a position where I had to do something constructive with my spare time, and that time was going to be spent alone because my work hours were not typical. I found myself, when most of my peers and friends were at work, having just an ocean of time to work on music and work on comedy, which have always been the two things that I find the most satisfying as forms of creative expression. And I think it was during the pandemic, I was feeling like there was a lot of emphasis around these divisive talking points about COVID and vaccinations and things like that. And I just had like a really, I was privileged to be able to immerse myself in art and culture and just watch great movies, listen to funny podcasts, listen to music, and create those things as well. I had this really great opportunity to just live in this sort of perpetual creative world, which alienated me and isolated from a lot of people, but I was able to sort of create my own world, and Snail Yeah was a part of that expression. It was kind of something I needed to do to be able to function in that time and respond almost as a reaction to, as I say, like the fact that some of my friends were disagreeing strongly on things about COVID and vaccinations. That stuff always upsets me so deeply when people get attached to those sort of ideas and identify with them and allow it to disrupt their relationships, and can't discuss those things. And so when I thought, what do I want to do? Do I want to say something about that, or do I want to go in the other direction and make something that is purely silly and like a relief and an escape, like a form of escapism from these things, something that is really childish and innocent, and hopefully I can share it with my friends, and some of them will enjoy it and not be so stressed out about the fact that we have to be in lockdown, or like, I can't believe that my mate reckons that the vaccinations are shit, or vice versa, and just be like, hey, listen to my stupid impressions of all the Seinfeld characters, and remember that 90s show we used to all think was funny. So yeah, that's kind of why I started making it.
That's interesting, and it ticks off one of the things written on my sheet of paper here, which is, why did you decide to make Snail Yeah?
Well, I'll say it again.
Say it louder.
But
yes, no, that's cool, and it is incredibly childish, but it's incredibly funny as well. And it's not childish in the sense that, like, it's not intelligent as well, because it's it's not like it's just dumb poo poo pee pee da da caca humor. Like it's stupid, and it's moronic in a lot of ways, but it also, like, I don't know, it's like when someone does a really good impression, right? It's half of what's fantastic about that impression is that they've got the mannerisms down, and they've got the way that the person speaks down, and the cadence, and they're doing this fantastic imitation. But what's also funny is that excuse me, the words that come out of their mouth are somewhat like they pull phrases, similar phrases from of what you're used to hearing that person they're impersonating saying, but they're sort of adding stupid or very, very silly words on the end of a typical or very typical sounding phrase from that person.
Yeah.
And that's I think what's really intelligent about Snail Yeah is that, like, yeah, there are impressions in here, and there are like sketches based around impression or based around a pop culture moment or a person such as Richard Dawkins or Seinfeld, like you said before, or Fraiser. But like, you're not just like being stupid and inane with your humor. You're finding something at the core of what we all know about those pop culture references and doing something interesting with it, I think.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that it always begins from a point of pure silliness and exploring something, having an extremely loose idea about where I feel I can do an impersonation or maybe make some ironic point about whether it's a TV show or a figure we're familiar with, like people might be familiar with Richard Dawkins, and just recording myself talking about that. And when I started talking about the sort of origin of Snail Yeah before, what I really wanted to started talking about was that the fundamental goal, because I had all of this time and needed to have like a positive relationship with myself and essentially not just let my thoughts fester. They had to go somewhere. And
Uncle Fester.
They need to Uncle Fester. I'm writing that one down. That's going in the next season.
Can you do a sketch around Uncle Fester?
I'm Uncle Fester from Fraiser.
Sorry, go on.
I wanted to make myself laugh, and so like you'll hear a lot of the time in, I guess, in some of the sketches that I'm on the point of laughing, and I might leave that in there. And
there's like is it true to say that like there's a lot of improvised sort of, you just pressed record and kind of
like
stream of consciousness?
There's probably 2 or 3 examples where I wrote things down and then recorded those and then edited around them and then freestyled on top of them, and but for the most part I'm recording 1 or 2 takes without writing anything down, editing it together, maybe listening back to it and judging against like, did I think this was funny at the time that I did it, and do I still think it's funny now? If I could re-listen to it and still find something funny, then it stays in. So this that's so what I was going to say was like, I only make this and try to make all of the things within Snail Yeah things that are funny to me, and that's the only indicator I have as to whether something is good or not, is if I listen to it and it makes me laugh, which is a really strange thing to try to do when it's just you in a room by yourself. How do you entertain yourself? How do you surprise yourself and make yourself laugh? If you're not writing things down and if you're improvising, you have to allow yourself to get into a space where you're not judging yourself but able to impersonate something and go in some sort of direction. And at a certain point, you catch a thread and find an idea, and it's very similar to just jamming or writing music by yourself.
Similar to working on music.
Yeah, where you eventually get, oh, that's where I was going, and now there's something here, and you can keep finding something funny about it until you realize what silly point you're trying to make. And
what's sorry to keep interrupting you, but what's really interesting about what you're talking about here is that, like, I've had a few experiences like this of like improvisation or comedy, or where you have to kind of come up with things off the cuff, and like excuse me again, there are moments where like the words kind of come out of your mouth, I don't know, maybe not milliseconds, but like maybe a second, 2 seconds after they've been conjured up in your mind, and this split second thing of like your brain comes up with a funny idea, the words kind of come out of your mouth just seconds after your brain's coming up with them, and they're coming out in almost real time, and you're shaping them in a certain way of whatever character you're portraying. And then all of that happens so fast that the nervous system, the way that the nervous system likes to respond with laughter, then comes on the end of that, right? So like the genesis happens in your brain, it travels down to your tongue, it comes out of your mouth, and by the time you finish saying the sentence, you're only just then realizing the thing that you've said is hilarious. And what makes it even funnier is that you are so conscious of that process that just happened of the let's transfer those electrical impulses down from the brain to the tongue, let them happen, and then you realize you've just like somehow landed on, and I'm not trying to be like aggrandizing here, but like a moment of gold that like all took. It's sort of like when you watch someone, what do I know about sport? You watch someone pull off a perfect, they jump into the air and they fucking the goalkeeper just smacks the ball out of the way, and just by a hair, and just by that, or you watch, a wonderful man sitting up on top of a roof, pulling a trigger, and just by a millimeter, it clips the ear of a lovely American ex-president.
Lovely American man. Slept roof.
But you sort of, just the amazingness of it, they're like, whoa, that was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
For that kind of like little thing to happen in your brain, come out your mouth, and then you realize it after the fact, it's just this weird sort of like bunny hopping of events of like brain, mouth, wait a minute, that was really funny. And if I take a moment to reflect on it, not only is it funny, but like if I think about the context of the last 10 minutes, there's like a second meaning here as well.
Yeah.
These kind of things happen and you start laughing at the thing you did yourself.
Yeah.
It's a very, very fun way of playing with yourself, like more fun than the typical way that we play with ourselves once we reach puberty.
And the fun thing, the really fun part, I think, is when you, like you just described towards the end there, where you start to realize that there's a second meaning that could be interpreted from this. And then all of a sudden you realize as you're sitting there at your computer with a microphone in your hand, like there's almost a second of delay where you're like, I wish that I could put that in there. Like, it's not done. Like, I'm working on it now. Right. Just because the first part was improvised doesn't mean I have to stay in that mode of improvisation. I can now manipulate this and insert that in there and make it seem like a mistake, or make it seem like a surprise to me playing the character who doesn't know that that's about to happen, if that makes sense. Like, in a sense, I always approach every one of and I'm really proud of the breadth of humor in it as well, because it's not all. Some of it is just me driving around in my car doing a character, and just sometimes that would be for half an hour or an hour. I'd be zeroing in on this. One of my favorite sketches is this like bogan who his life is filled with drills. He just owns he owns a lot of drills, and that made me laugh so much when I was doing it. And towards the end of that sketch, he draws a parallel between the fact that there's like his daughter is frustrated because he keeps turning up to social engagements through her whole life and bringing drills instead of a trifle or a present or a baby shower or something. And at the end of this long just driving around talking this character, I made this, it's not a great point, but I was able to wrap up the sketch by her giving a speech to him about how, like, you think you can fix everything with a drill, but there's one thing that you can't fix with that, and that's how I feel about you. Right. And that feels like that there's some sort of potency to that. And then he drills her and kills her with the drill, which is just stupid. But stuff like that, or I think my favorite sketch of all is one called Yes, Fraiser, which came from the idea of I wanted to combine. Well, I'd done a parody of Seinfeld where I did like decent impersonations of Jerry, George, and Kramer, and then followed up with a terrible impersonation of Elaine.
One of my favorite parts, by the way, is like you realize that like, oh, he's doing the Kramer good, he's doing the Seinfeld very well, and here's George, it's fantastic, and then like Elaine comes and you're like, oh, she's clearly just didn't know how to do Elaine. It's like, hi guys, it's me.
I've been writing in my fashion magazine. And
it's like when I re-listened to that one, I sort of for a moment I thought, oh, this is a funny kind of a funny bit about how like Elaine, as often was the case in 90s sitcoms, she's like one of the few female characters, and there's nothing we know about her. And then I quickly realized, no, she's like a huge exception to the rule. She is one of the funniest characters in that show, and there's so much we know about her. Like you learn so much about she's such a three-dimensional character. Just as well, I mean, she's more 100% more three-dimensional than Kramer, for sure. Jerry and maybe on par with Jerry and George, maybe not quite. But yeah, for a moment I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting point. Like, Morgan's come in here and he's made this point, like, it's me, Elaine.
Yeah.
Who cares about me? But that's not the case. She's one of my favorites.
Yeah, no, it's making the point that the person doing this impersonation can't see that she's a complicated, well-rounded character.
Right.
And therefore can't do a proper impersonation of her. Which is
I like Kramer because he comes in through the door.
He slides in through the door.
Yeah, that's funny. What's up with that Elaine chick though?
But like all of those ideas, like you can't just next week you're making a podcast and be like, oh, I'm going to do that for Fraiser now.
Right.
But like I would try to always find, like as I say, it's always just about making yourself laugh and making yourself entertained. But you can't surprise yourself and keep tricking yourself in the same way. So you have to keep looking for different ways to do that. Which is why for me, I like revisiting this podcast every year or so, because I do think that some of these ideas are always going to be funny to me. But I can also see like the evolution from episode 1 to episode 5, where episode 1 I'm really just stuffing around, and I think there's good things and funny things in every episode. But in the third episode, I think I realized something with this sketch, Yes, Fraiser, where I was not in a good mood at all. And I thought, what if I just sit down and just start trying to do this thing? And it became an anti-sketch or an anti-impersonation sketch about this guy who is talking in the exact same tone of voice that I'm talking in right now and is unable to put any energy or effort into his impersonations of the characters in Fraiser, has the most lazy, inaccurate understanding of what Fraiser is about. Like, he hasn't even watched the show. It's like he's seen
even the theme song is, I think that is the way.
Yeah.
I think that's the purpose of this show.
It's like if somebody assigned him the job of making a parody sketch of Fraiser and gave him a bunch of still images of the show and like not even a synopsis of the show. He'd be like, he looks like a psychologist, he looks upset, they look probably like brothers. I would say that he's probably upset at him for taking his books. I guess. Were
you going to say, because I don't know that this was actually, let's play the
game.
Let's play the game. Let's play the Yes, Fraiser sketch. Because what we're actually going to do after this podcast is weekly we're going to release each of the 5 episodes of the Snail Yeah podcast via our podcast stream. But we're not going to let you hear the whole episodes unless you're subscribing to our Patreon. We've got a really healthy listenership at the moment via Patreon, so thank you so much to the listeners. A reminder, if you'd like to hear these full episodes as they come out, you go to patreon.com/Big Reef. But let's listen to the Yes, Fraiser sketch, and then we'll come back and talk some more about it.
Hello, my name is Fraiser Crane. I'm a psychologist with a radio show. And my dad lives with me in my flat where he has a dog. And my brother is in love with my nanny who cleans the flat. I think I have a son. Niles. Yes, Fraiser. Have you been reading my psychology books? Yes, Fraiser. Well, don't. They're for my eyes only. Yes, Fraiser. Hey, Fraiser, why don't you lay off your brother? Dad, he read my psychology books. Well, he's got to read something. Well, they're mine and they're for my eyes only. Yes, Fraiser. What are you boys all bickering about now? Hello, Daphne. I was trying to read Fraiser's psychology books, but he doesn't want me to. Because they're for my eyes only. Yes, Fraiser, they are for your eyes only. Yes, Fraiser, I wish that you boys would learn how to share. Well, sometimes I think that Fraiser's eyes are bigger than his stomach. Yes, Fraiser. Well, they're for my eyes only. Yes, Fraiser. Yes, Fraiser, I'm sorry. These are for your eyes and your eyes only. Thank you, Dad. I knew that you'd come around sooner or later. He's got a point. Maybe we should stop meddling in Fraiser's life and let him read his psychology books in peace. Yes, Fraiser. My understanding of the show is that Fraiser wants to read books.
Yes, Fraiser.
But his brother sometimes takes them and that displeases him.
Yes, Fraiser.
And according to Fraiser, they are for his eyes only, yes. I think he has a son. I think he has a son.
Yes, Fraiser.
Whoa. Yes, Fraiser.
Yes, Fraiser.
And that's...
Oh, no, I was going to ask you, so for a second there, something in my brain twinged. It was like, is there a yes minister?
I think
like,
so. Yeah. I think that at some point...
It is this stream of consciousness thing where you're not even sure.
Yeah, I think
that's where it comes from.
I think that I was open to the idea of combining Fraiser with yes minister or yes prime minister.
Right.
But the only way that you make that connection is the fact that yes is there.
Yep.
And then that, like, it's not even I don't know if in that show they say yes minister a lot, but in this version of Fraiser, that is the catchphrase of every character.
That's kind of funny because I don't think there's you talk about your Seinfeld. There are like 30,000. There are like 20 catchphrases that you can pull from famous episodes. But when I think of Fraiser, which is a show that I haven't ever seen, I watched one episode and was extremely disappointed because I was under the impression that it was this fantastic,
smart, and
I thought it was meant to be a really well-regarded sitcom, and I watched an episode. This is fucking terrible. Maybe I was watching the wrong season. I don't know. I should give it another go. But there's not a catchphrase from Fraiser which kind of makes this idea that all of these characters in your sketch are saying yes, Fraiser before they say anything is very funny. It's like this person again. I hate using this phrase this way, but to Fraiser, I hate using this Fraiser this way, but maybe for the listeners, it's just to use language in the way that it's supposed to be used to describe things. The meta of the sketch. Or the sort of meta approach of the sketch is this idea that what's funny is what you said before, is that the person that has put this sketch together has never watched an episode of Fraiser before, and so they're all saying yes Fraiser because for some reason this person thinks that that's what happens in the TV show. Yeah. That's hilarious to me.
I think there's something really if you have the ability to make yourself retarded or stupid and also put together a podcast to express that, fully adopt that character, and just imagine if somebody like that existed and for some reason wanted to express that to the world, wanted to show them this is what I think I'm going to make my own episode of Fraiser. I love Fraiser. Like they were stupid enough to interpret it that way, but clever enough to record it all. And one of my other favorite things about that sketch is the only way to differentiate the characters is that they're panned slightly left and right in your
It's all just more or less in your deadpan voice from memory.
There's 5 characters speaking in the same voice. They're all kind of saying the same thing to each other. And then another moment in that episode that I'm just unashamedly so proud of particular moments. There's this sketch later on which is a parody of, I don't know if it's still on Triple J, but there was this program called Hack, where a host named Tom Tilley would invite apparently open conversations about difficult subject matter on this youth radio station, and there seemed to be a few years where I would just constantly flick over to Triple J, and there would be some reference to the fact that pill testing was coming. That was just in the conversation.
It was maybe in the zeitgeist for a while.
It was there for a while, and I don't necessarily know if this is the case, but I often got the feeling in listening to 5 minutes of this show sometimes that he was presenting himself as a very welcome and open, impartial host, but would almost use passive-aggressive language to talk people down or try to convince them.
If it wasn't his...
If it didn't align with ABC's views, then it would just be that's an interesting way of seeing things. And if it was somebody who was supporting, that's great to hear somebody say that. There's a different message.
John here, the fucking dickhead, thinks that pill testing's bad.
Yeah.
Well, what's your take on this situation?
And it gets to the point where he's only taking calls from himself.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
everybody's calling up and they're Tom from Sydney and his name is Tom, and then another person calls up and it's somebody else who has a differing opinion, and he unfortunately drops the call, and then he gets in this dialogue with this guy who has the same voice as him, and they're going back and forward, and the rhythm of their speech becomes like increasing. So like they're speaking in long passages, is getting shorter and shorter until they both speak at the same time, and they both say "Yes, Fraiser" at the same time. That to me was like one of the funniest things I think ever like heard as a callback.
Yeah,
because they're doing the same thing that was happening in the sketch before. They're speaking in the same voice. They're doing the same thing. They're like illustrating. And it almost gives more depth to the sketch that happened before. It gives more meaning to it. And
and that's
it's
important because there's no meaning.
There was no meaning to
little
it.
meaning to the previous sketch.
There was no meaning to it, and now
yes,
Fraiser as a phrase in the context of that Tom Tilley sketch is so powerful because it further exemplifies what that sketch is trying to say, that Tom Tilley will only talk to people that share exactly the same opinion as him. He will essentially only talk to a mirror version of himself. Before that happened, like that was not intentional to do that. It just was one of those moments where you're like, oh, there's an opportunity to say "Yes, Fraiser" again.
100%. And suddenly, "Yes, Fraiser," the phrase means so much more to the listener and to yourself as well. Like you like part of this is like world building. I think there's a whole universe that you've created in this podcast. I think by once you only need to listen to a little bit of the first episode or a couple of sketches in that first episode, and you start to understand that it is this unique universe that like you just kind of have to let it develop in front of you as you listen to it. I really, really love that about it. And I joke when I say that there's no point to the "Yes, Fraiser" sketch, because there is a point. It's just that like, it's also just some of them are just so insane and silly. Yeah, it's a bit hard to draw a point from. But I think like it leaves they often leave themselves open to drawing lots of different ideas and messages from. I really like that about him. Yeah,
there's very little substance or like. I think that Tom Tilley sketch is probably the only one that has like a scathing point to it.
I don't think that maybe you're right. I really did like that one when on re-listening. So this is only the second time I've ever heard it. I listened to it when you first finished it, first released it, and I found it fucking hilarious then. And then revisiting it over these last couple of weeks has been really, really fun. Before we drop over to just the Patreon patrons, I do want an opportunity to play another clip so that people can be aware of what they should subscribe for, or if they are subscribed, what they should expect. I think one of my favorite sketches, and this one's a little bit more vulgar, and it's not because it's vulgar that it's funny. I think they just did a really, really good job of parodying. I don't know if anyone's watched like YouTube or like just
top 10 stuff.
Yeah, just brain rot stuff. Like I don't know, like if you're really into a certain TV show, and I don't know. I've never done this myself, but like I've been around people who are watching this kind of content. I'm just like, what is this bullshit? And it's like these days, I don't know if this was the case back when you recorded this, but these days it's like compiled by AI and like almost edited by an AI, and the voice is not a real voice and stuff. It's like top 10x about why. And it's just like someone has like prompted an AI to make a 5-minute video using readily available images that are on the internet, some readily available transitions and video effects that are on the internet, and facts that you can Google about a TV show. And you've done one of these that was like top 10 everybody loves Raymond secrets. but like all the verbiage and all the words you've used about like dark and kept secrets about on the set and this, that, and that. It's all, and the accent used to play the voice of whoever this fucking idiot who runs a top 10 facts about whatever.
She's so enthusiastic.
It's just like, did you know that blah, 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 blah. It's very, very, very funny. The vulgarness of it is kind of like, I don't know, like, I'm not like a crazy, I don't find shit and farts and stuff like this funny. But that's not what's funny about this this sketch. Let's roll the sketch now. Let's listen to Top 10 Everybody Loves Raymond Dark Secrets.
Everybody Loves Raymond is one of the most successful sitcoms of all time. It was a ratings juggernaut for CBS, has generated 6 international spin-offs, and catapulted the careers of several members of the cast. But, as with any Hollywood success story, there's always a darker side to the glitz and glamour. These are the secrets that one of America's favorite families tried to hide. Number 10. Ray Romano shits his pants. It was a well-known fact that on set of Everybody Loves Raymond, Ray Romano, the big boy himself, would not go on set unless somebody else took a steaming dump in his trousers before filming. Looks like somebody had a bit too much spaghetti.
Somebody kill me.
Number 9. Brad Garrett shits his pants. The actor who played Robert Barone, Ray's brother, is well known for being a very tall man. But did you know there's always a darker side to the glitz and glamour? Brad Garrett is reported as targeting one particular member of the crew and demanding that they shit in his pants before, during, and after filming his scenes. Just like Mama used to make.
I forgot where I live!
Number 8. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Everybody on that show was shitting in each other's pants all of the time. Okay, goodbye.
The Saints are still marching in.
As I was saying before, it's funny because it's gross and it's like a bit of shock value. But what truly is funny is like taking this existing thing and subverting it and turning it into, the impressions and the you're lampooning something that doesn't need to exist, right?
Yeah, and
we don't need these videos on the internet, and they are harmful.
Yeah,
I hate it. When I hear something...
Well, you were warned that you would not get access to this whole episode at the start of this podcast. So as you hear the dulcet tones of Morgan and Hayden Quinn, that's me, fading out, do know that all you have to do is make your way over to patreon.com/Big Reef and pay $8.50 per month, and you can hear the rest of this riveting conversation we had about Morgan's podcast. I know... I certainly am subscribing to it. I'm paying myself $8.50 to listen to these podcasts. You also get access to all other kinds of fantastic things. So please head over there now. And I just want to say to everyone who has been subscribing and giving us great positive feedback on the podcast and everything else, it's fucking lovely. Thank you. So join the club. Patreon.com/Big Reef. Goodbye.